It's Darlene. Welcome to Sand Creek Quilting, Featherweight Doctor. Tonight is my Wednesday show. We are working on some quilting essentials for piecing, for the piecing class. And so let me just bring up my feeds and then we're going to say hi to some friends. All right, how's everybody's week going since Monday? I have been busy with quilting. The long arm's been running like crazy this week. Let's see here. YouTube. I do have my classes, by the way, for those of you local to Sandpoint, Idaho. My in-person classes have gone up on the website, so registration is open. You can either come in and talk to me in person or you can get online. Let's see here, I'm almost to my feeds. There's everybody. Hi. All right, YouTube, I'm coming for you. Hang on. Let me get my Facebook feed up first. This. Okay. So Monday was Monday, Tuesday, today has been very slow in here. It's been raining all day and I think people aren't coming into town because of the weather, but the long arm has been flying today. We finished, I was showing everybody over on Instagram on the pre-show, I finished a Star Wars quilt for my buddy Jennifer in Verde, Nevada, and starting to load another fall quilt. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about quilting basics today. I am in the process of writing my syllabus for my beginning piecing class, which is a 5-week class. And because all of this stuff is so fresh on my mind, I thought it would be good to kind of talk to you guys about it as my online community also, because as it's a good refresher for me, it might be a good refresher for some of you that have a little more quilting experience. So let me say hi to some friends and then we'll get going. So hi Cindy over on YouTube. Hi Sandra Garcia, thanks for joining me. Polly's on from UK. Hi Polly. Fran's on. Franny's on YouTube. Look out YouTube. Sunny's on. Hello. Kathy Klein's on from Illinois. It's so beautiful here in North Idaho too. I bet Michigan's even more stunning with more leaf trees. Hi Pam Ernest from Maine. Minnie, hello Minnie. I have a question with regards to oiling my black. That's not good. I have a question in regards to oil. Black oil keeps seeping out of the oil ports in the back of my featherweight. I take care in only, let's see. Minnie, I might need you to send me a picture of that because I'm not sure. Are you talking about your motor is leaking oil or their actual ports on the back of your featherweight? These holes here. Denise is on too on YouTube. She said, oh boy, Polly and Franny on YouTube. Good Lord. All right, let me say hi to my YouTube crowd. Howdy from Angel. Hello. Lisa's on. Nancy's on from Lake Stevens. Angel's on. Oh, you're having a rough day? Why are you having a rough day, Angel? That's not okay. Not on my watch. Let's make it better. Mary's on. Hi. Lisa's there. Oh, I wish you could attend too in person, Angel. That would be fun. Lisa Wood's on from Texas. Becky's on from Texas. Jennifer, I was just showing off your son's quilt on Instagram. You'll have to check out my pre-show when we hang up. Let's see. Sandy Reese is on from New Hampshire. Melon Joe present and accounted for. Bernadette's on from Canada. Hi, Bernadette. Pauline is on from Texas, and Bonnie's on from Illinois. Hello. Oh, Nancy and Kathy in Arizona. Hello. The ports on the back. Fran, explain what we can talk about a Scant 1/4 inch. We can totally do that. Sounds perfect where you are, Cindy. It's been, stormy in the UK. Good Lord. Hi, Nancy from Navarre, Florida. All right, so, my notes. Ray, can you hand me my purple notes on my Bernina? So, SEW. We are getting ready to drop our first 5-session, thank you, piecing class ever. I've never taught this class before. I'm a master quilter and an expert quilter, so I definitely should be able to handle this. Hi, Betsy from Maine. Thanks for joining us. And Debbie's on from Kentucky. Hello, hello. So what I did was, with the quilt we're doing is a sampler quilt. It's actually out of an Alex Anderson book called Start Quilting, the 3rd edition. I've done so many quilts out of other Alex Anderson's quilt books. I know other instructors that are good friends of mine, like Val from Gossypium in Issaquah and Kathy Reynolds at a Quilters Oasis in Mesa, Arizona, that use this book for teaching their 5-part classes. So I feel like this is absolutely the right resource. In the class, we will do a sampler, and we will go over like really traditional blocks like the rail fence, the 9-patch, the variegation 9-patch, log cabin, friendship star, flying geese block, and square dance. Those are the 7 quilt blocks that we will cover in the class. And so today I started with the log cabin, or not the log cabin, the rail fence. I was trying to get through the whole quilt today. Yeah, I have 5 blocks cut. Oh well, you win some, you lose some. There's always tomorrow. Oh, okay, Nancy's also confused when she hears scant 1/4 inch seam. Good, you're in the right place, girl. You're in the right place. And Elaine's on from Marysville. Hi, Elaine, thanks for joining us. All right, so first thing that we're gonna talk about in the class is good cutting practices. I made notes. You guys, are you impressed? You should be. Good cutting practices. And what I mean by that are a lot of the students that will join me in this class literally have never even put together a block before. So some of them may not be familiar with some of our quilting tools. And what I mean by quilting tools specifically is cutting tools. So this is called a rotary cutting mat, and this is a rotary cutting ruler, and this is a rotary cutter. So if you do not have an AccuQuilt cutter, Odie's not on. She's not like AccuQuilt. You use one of these tools. This is 100% better than using scissors to cut your fabric out. I'm just saying. So this is a rotary cutter. When you're using it, it's very important. Let me put this down so I have my hands free. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the safety portion of the class. If you are going to hurt yourself really badly, it is probably with this tool right here. Good cutting practices would include always double checking your cutting edge before you slice through it to make sure your finger is not hanging over the edge. You know who you are. We've all done it. I have scars all over my hands from rotary cutting incidents. The other thing too is like this rotary cutter, the other one that I use has a safety open and close. And so when the rotary cutter is not in your hands, actually being used as a cutter, the guard goes up. Every time you put that rotary cutter down out of your hand, you make sure your guard is up. And that is how you don't slice yourself on accident, by just moving stuff around on your cutting board. Fran says, and a box of bandages for Darlene. Yep. My husband's here, he goes, yep. Anyone else have a first aid kit in their sewing room? Oh, Denise also says a good safety tip is no drinking and using the rotary cutter. It doesn't go well, she said. Kathy said, hi, Erica. Now, since Erica's on, I'm going to take this opportunity to point out that if you have an AccuQuilt cutter, there's much lower chance you're actually going to hurt yourself on a blade because the blades are in a protective foam cover. But for those of us who are using the old traditional methods, that is what those tools look like. Oh, Nancy King also says to avoid the rotary cutter when you're tired. Hi, Deanna from Napa Vine. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so those are good cutting practices. So you measure twice, you cut once, but you do a safety check before you roll the rotary cutter through the blade. You also make sure that when the rotary cutter is not in your hand and down on the mat, the guard goes up. You do not leave the blade open and down on the table. guys are cracking me up. Jennifer says, I have scars from the rotary cutter. Was cutting and it hit the edge of the ruler 15 stitches later. Oh my gosh. Good Lord. Hi, Karen Mansky. Hello, Darlene from Hillard, Oregon. Just got my Acu quilt and oh yay, which they do have back in stock. Yes, looking forward to your upcoming quilt along. I've decided I need to quit monkeying around and get it done this in the next couple weeks. So I've got some guests on the show the next 2 weeks. Sandy Martin is going to be on Wednesday. Hi, Sandy, if you're watching. And then the next week is going to be Karen Lee from Simply Featherweights. And then I'm hoping to roll out my sew along because we're quit monkeying around, Darlene, and get the job done. Hi, Julia in Texas. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so that's good cutting safety practices. The next thing you need to be good at or learn good practices in is a good seam allowance. Quilters are fanatical about a 1/4 inch seam. And especially on the featherweight, 1/4 inch seams are not as easy as you might think to come by. So first of all, having the right accessories on your featherweight are, in terms of your 1/4 inch foot, is definitely a good idea. I know, Lisa, and I need to stop scaring the newbies away with their horror stories. It's fun. Learn how to quilt. Land in the emergency room with stitches. It's fun. Okay, so the right presser foot is always a good idea. So this is the one that I like. It is the 1/4 inch foot without the guide. So it's a 1/4 inch from either side of the foot. I line the raw edge of my fabric up to the whatever side I'm sewing on. And that way I'm always guaranteed to have a good 1/4 inch seam allowance. Until you are comfortable sewing a good straight seam, go slow. There's nothing that says that you have to race through the project. I would say that's expert level quilting if you're racing through. Take your time, slow down, and use a good 1/4 inch seam allowance. Polly, stop it. What do you call a box of plasters? Is that what you call Band-Aids in UK? Plasters? I know what steri strips are. Okay, so if you need a little bit of extra help with a good 1/4 inch seam allowance, there is a foot that has a guide on one end and it has like a curb so you can butt the raw edge of your fabric right up to the curb. I don't like the curb myself. I like this foot because I do a lot of half square triangles where I'm sewing on either side of a drawn line and I don't want to have to move my fabric. Why is there a mannequin outside my door? Oh, she's wearing the aprons that we are getting back in December. And our hats too. All right, so right feet is a good thing to have. The other thing that I think is a good thing to have is blue painter's tape. Blue painter's tape makes a really good mark for your seam allowance. Let me show you. So don't run it over your gold foil. Don't run it over your decals. You don't need that much. You just need a line. Now, a couple of you guys have asked what a scant 1/4 inch is. This is an excellent question. So a scant 1/4 inch is used in blocks that have many pieces to go together. What you do is instead of sewing right to the edge of that raw foot, you move it over a few threads in. So that way you're taking a scant 1/4 inch seam, and that way if you're doing a block that has many seams in it, by the time you get it out to its 8.5, 12.5, 10.5 inch size, you may have had too deep of a 1/4 inch seam, and then if you compound that by every single seam that you've had, your block is significantly undersized. So if I'm teaching a class and I know that our blocks have many seams in them, I'll tell people to use a scant 1/4 inch. That way it helps to forgive if you take too deep of a 1/4 inch on another part of the block. Okay, Band-Aids are plasters over this side of the pot. Good to know. Good to know. So this is how I use the blue painter's tape. I just use it as a seam guide. Some places sell guides that fix onto the bed here. Everybody knows Darlene's rule about things that strap to the bed of the machine. We say no thank you, because what happens is it scratches our paint and our finish, and then we don't have pretty featherweights, so we're not going to do that. The other thing is this little thing right here is an actual vintage seam guide. It comes with a screw, and it's supposed to, again, screw down. Oh, how do you see that? Screw down to the bed of the machine like this. Oop, this is also a no-no. It's a no-no. Again, because it screws to the bed of the machine. Jen says, I was in a class once where the teacher walked around the room, and if you were caught without your cutter closed when you were not in use, you had to pay a quarter. I like this. Might be adopting this policy in my class. At the end of the class, the one who always closed the cutter won the money. Oh, I love that. This was an prompt to always close when not cutting. I'm going to use that. May not make it a quarter though. Let's make it hurt like a buck. You have to give me a buck. And then if you don't get caught throughout the entire class with your blade open and down, you split it. How's that sound? I like that. So it's a smaller seam, not a full seam. Yes, Fran, that's correct. Polly says blue painter's tape is good as an emergency band-aid. I swear we don't all cut ourselves. New quilters who are, John, are you watching? Not everybody cuts themselves. Unfortunately, I've done that many times, hence that's why I have a first aid kit. Yes, me too. Me too. Hi, Joanne Lee. Thanks for joining us from Anchorage, Alaska. All right, so the other thing that we'll learn in our new 5-part quilting class is good pressing habits. So what I mean by good pressing habits, and I learned this from some gals that used to come around, actually the quilt shop that Joanne Lee owned in Maple Valley, Washington. They taught me, so this is a rail finch. I've cut 2.5-inch strips out of 3 different fabrics, and I've sewn them all together lengthwise, and I'm getting ready to press this to the dark side. So my seams will go this way towards the dark purple. But before I press, I will set my seam. So I'll lay this on the cutting board, and with the piece closed, I go through with the iron and I just press the seam. It's called setting the seam. Before then, I open it up and roll the iron down. The reason why I do that, especially when you're doing this style of strip piecing where you're sewing many things back together and then cutting it in a different way, you want to make sure your seams are fully open and fully extended. And by setting the seam first and then opening it, you'll get a full extension on your seams, and you won't have any puckers or tucks that'll then undersize the width of your block. So if this was 3 2.5-inch strips, this should be 6.5 inches when all is said and done, because I've lost a 1/2 inch in this seam and a 1/2 inch in this seam because I have 2 1/4-inch seams. The math gets easier as you get further down the road, I promise. Lisa says, I'm not going to regret saying this. I have quilted. Oh, Lisa, I don't even know if I should finish this statement. She says, I'm going to regret saying this, and I have quilted for 35 years on and off and never cut myself cutting fabric. Just don't ask me about the kitchen. Sharp objects. Hi, Odie. You missed my AccuQuilt talk earlier. Thanks for joining us. Oops. Good Lord. I keep dropping stuff today, left and right. Okay, so setting your seam before you press it, a good iron and a good pressing mat, either a wool pressing mat or a regular old ironing board, whatever you use is always good to have on hand. It helps, the heat to really transfer through the fabric, and has a good solid open press also. All right, the last bit, so I'll show you. So this is one of my colorways. Oh, I should show you the fabric. You guys, I came away from Tula. I feel like I cheated on her a little bit with the fabric selection because I chose Cave. Sorry. Tula Pink, if you're watching, I'm sorry. Right. Yes, those clappers are good. Yes. So my buddy Judy at Celtic Quilter in Omaha, I can't wait to see her in a few weeks. I'm going to be out there teaching some maintenance classes. She has those special clappers made. The weight of them, it's a hardwood, helps to really spread the seam. Yeah, super crisp seams even on denim. I know I need to get one of those. I think they're awesome. Sunny wants to know, do you generally use a scant or a full 1/4 inch seam? It depends on the block I'm making, Sunny. If there are many seams in the block, I will use a scant 1/4 inch seam, even if not instructed to do so by the pattern designer. If it's just a few seams, I'll use the regular 1/4 inch seam. I don't like my things to be undersized, so I'm pretty careful with that. So you guys ready for the focus fabric from Cave? All right, here's my border print. Look at how pretty. So here's my border print for the sampler class. Here is one set of rail fences. So we have this. Here's one set of rail fences. So this is an actual rail fence, folks. It's just 3 strips sub-cut up. And then here's another one of my strip sets. So, oh, that's a good idea, Judy P. An old iron. I had one of those around here. Just the metal ones. Yeah, they're over because they're weighty. That's a great idea. So, and here's my border, my inner border and my binding. So here's, the sample should be done tomorrow if I can stop messing around. So here's my border. Come on, you guys, seriously. So pretty. By the way, thank you, Stephanie at Selkirk Quilts, for helping me pick out fabric today. You're amazing. We went through her whole store. She picked this out. I think it's my favorite one. Let's see. Polly says, my grandpa made a few for me, including an extra long one for pressing curtains. Oh, that's a good idea. Always have them next to my iron. Love it. Let's see. Jerry Hendricks says, great way to start. How particular must you be with the straight of grain for cutting? I'm pretty particular with not using the folds in their fabric that the manufacturer put in, but refolding my own fabric to make sure that I have it exactly right for the straight of grain. I have some in that colorway too, in the green. Love it. Marcia, Lisa says, not a big pink fan, but I like those choices. Thanks, Lisa. And Bernadette loves it. Very cool. All right. So I think that's it. Oh, the last little note that I had on my notes for the show is that even though in the book it has you cut your borders when you cut the rest of your fabric, I do not encourage people to cut their borders until the center of the quilt is done. That's because over the years of quilting, a lot of times quilts may not land up the exact same size that they're supposed to land up. And it's better to cut your borders based on the quilt top that you've made, not the one that the designer designed. So I wait until my center piece is made, and then I'll measure through the center of the quilt and cut 2 identical borders for the side, and then measure through the center of the quilt horizontally, and then put my borders on, cut them at the same time and put them on and make them fit. If they're too long or too short, I'll use steam to shrink my borders if they need to be shrunk, or the iron to elongate them if I need them to be elongated. But that's how I get everything to fit perfectly, is I do not cut my borders until after the center of the quilt is done. So there you go. That is what I took away from writing my syllabus today. I hope everybody got a little something out of that lesson. If you are local to Sandpoint, the classes are now up for in-person only on the website, featherweightdoctor.com, so feel free to go check them out. Most of the long series of classes start in January because we're a little close to the holidays to start a class that has a really long series to it, because I didn't want our Thanksgivings and our Christmases to be affected by classes. So for them or for me. All right, so Friday I'll be back on air. We're going to be doing our sip and sew, my favorite night of the week. Probably more work on the penguin quilt, and hanging out with you guys, sipping my favorite beverage. Hi, John. Oh, good. John, I'm actually really glad you logged on late because you're a new quilter and the conversation about using the rotary cutter might scare you off. I specifically said, is John out there? Not everybody cuts themselves. Peggy, hi Peggy. Oh my gosh. You have 3 grandsons ages 7, 4, and 7 months. Girl, you must need a nap. I need a nap reading that statement. You're welcome, Cindy. You're welcome. All right, friends. Thanks for joining me tonight. I will look forward to seeing you on Friday on Facebook and YouTube. If you haven't already, like this video. If you find this information useful, maybe someone else in your quilting groups do also. Feel free to share it out to your quilting groups and to your own personal page. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I hope everybody has a great night. I'll see you on Friday, 4 o'clock Pacific, right here.